It was supposed to be an ordinary November morning in rural Iowa, the kind of crisp, chilly day when farmers get their chores done before winter's bite settles in for good. But in just a few short hours, one family's life would spiral into a nightmare that would shock an entire community. What started as a routine day working around the farm would end with a desperate 911 call, a frantic race against time, and a mystery so dark, so twisted, that it left investigators and jurors stunned. This is the chilling story of Amy Mullis, a hardworking wife and mother who never came home from her chores, and the husband whose secrets unraveled a marriage that looked perfect from the outside. What happened inside that quiet farm in Iowa is a story of love, betrayal, and a brutal act that turned a simple tool into a weapon of death. And once you hear the details, you'll understand why this case has haunted people across the country. Amy Mullis was just 39 years old when her life came to a shocking end. To her friends and neighbors, she seemed like the picture of small-town strength. She was a mother of 3, devoted to her children, and committed to her life on the farm. Amy and her husband, Todd Mullis, worked side by side every day, tending to hogs, caring for crops, and managing the long, exhausting hours that came with farm life. In public, their relationship looked solid. People who knew them saw a hard-working couple raising their kids and running a farm together, weathering the ups and downs of rural life as a team. But behind closed doors, Amy carried secrets that she rarely shared, fears about her marriage, doubts about her happiness, and dreams of a life that might have been different. On the morning of November 10, 2018, Todd and Amy began their day like any other. The farm was busy, as always, and there was plenty of work to be done. Their 13-year-old son was home that morning, helping his parents with chores. Amy wasn't feeling her best. She had recently undergone a medical procedure and was still recovering, but she pushed herself to help out where she could. Todd, by all appearances, was in charge, directing his son and wife in their tasks, making sure the work got done. They moved from one building to another, tackling the endless jobs that came with raising hogs on a large scale. As the morning went on, Todd asked Amy to fetch something from the barn. Their son later recalled that Amy walked off alone to grab a pet carrier. It was such a simple errand, something that should have taken just a few minutes. But when she didn't come back, alarm bells started to ring in Todd's head. He sent their son to check on her. What the boy saw inside that barn would change his life forever. Amy was lying on the ground, unresponsive, her body twisted in a way that made it clear something was terribly wrong. And protruding from her back was a tool every farmer recognized instantly, a corn rake, a heavy, sharp implement with long, pointed tines used to move corn. It was buried deep in her, a sight so horrifying that the young boy froze. He ran to get his father, his voice shaking, his words spilling out in panic. Todd rushed in and saw his wife on the ground, impaled by the rake. According to him, he pulled it out, desperately trying to save her, but it was too late. The scene was nothing short of a nightmare. Todd grabbed his phone and dialed 911, his voice frantic. "My wife, she's had a horrible accident," he told the operator, claiming Amy must have fallen on the corn rake. He begged for help, explaining that he was driving her to the hospital himself because there wasn't time to wait for an ambulance. His son sat in the truck with him as they sped down rural roads, Amy's lifeless body in the back. When they finally reached the hospital, doctors and nurses tried to revive her, but the injuries were too severe. Amy was pronounced dead not long after she arrived. At first, Todd's explanation sounded like a tragic accident. Farming is dangerous work, and every year, men and women lose their lives to machinery, tools, and unpredictable events. But something about Amy's injuries didn't add up. The medical examiner's report revealed a chilling detail: Amy hadn't been pierced by the rake once. She had been stabbed in the back at least 6 times. The angles of the wounds were different, inconsistent with a fall. And just like that, what had been described as a farm accident now looked very much like murder. Detectives quickly zeroed in on the one person who had been closest to Amy that day, her husband, Todd. As investigators began piecing together Amy's life, a darker picture emerged. Friends confided that Amy had been unhappy in her marriage for years. She had talked about leaving Todd, about wanting a fresh start away from the farm and away from him. She had also been involved in an affair with another man, a secret relationship that gave her a glimpse of the life she longed for. Emails and text messages revealed a woman torn between duty and desire, between the life she had built and the one she wished she could have. Todd, on the other hand, painted himself as a devoted husband blindsided by tragedy. He insisted he loved Amy, that her death was nothing but a freak accident. But investigators weren't convinced. They uncovered a pattern of control in Todd's behavior, stories of a man who demanded obedience, who monitored Amy closely, and who reacted with anger when she strayed from the role he expected her to play. The affair, detectives believed, was the breaking point. Amy had grown distant, and Todd had grown more suspicious. In the days leading up to her death, Amy had confided in friends that she feared for her safety, that if anything happened to her, people should look to Todd first. Those words, in hindsight, felt like a haunting warning. When the case went to trial, prosecutors laid out their theory. Todd Mullis had killed his wife in a fit of rage after discovering her affair. They argued that he lured her into the barn, attacked her with the corn rake, and staged the scene to look like an accident. The fact that their 13-year-old son was present that day added another layer of horror. He was a witness, however indirect, to his mother's final moments and his father's desperate attempt to cover up what had happened. The defense fought back, insisting there was no proof Todd had committed murder. They suggested that Amy's injuries could still be explained as an accident, that maybe she had fallen multiple times, or that the rake had shifted in a way that caused the wounds. But jurors weren't buying it. The sheer number of stab wounds told a story that no accident could explain. After hours of testimony and days of deliberation, the jury returned their verdict. Todd Mullis was found guilty of first-degree murder. The sentence was life in prison without the possibility of parole. For Amy's friends and family, the verdict was a bittersweet moment. Justice had been served, but nothing could bring her back. Her children were left with the unthinkable, a mother gone forever, a father imprisoned for her murder. A family that had once seemed so ordinary, so typical of small-town America, was shattered beyond repair. The case of Amy Mullis still sends chills through anyone who hears it. It's not just the brutality of the act itself. The image of a woman impaled by a corn rake is hard to forget, but also the betrayal behind it. A marriage that looked stable from the outside was crumbling from within, and when the truth surfaced, it ended in violence. Amy's story is a reminder that appearances can be deceiving, that danger sometimes lives inside the very walls we call home. As we look back on that November day in Iowa, we're left with haunting questions. Could Amy's death have been prevented? Did the signs go unnoticed for too long? And what becomes of children forced to grow up with the memory of a mother's murder and a father's conviction? For some, the answers will never come. But one thing is certain. The tragedy of Amy Mullis is a story that will not be forgotten, a cautionary tale of love, control, and the devastating cost of secrets kept too long. And so, we leave this story where it began, on a quiet farm, in a small town, where a simple tool of the land became a weapon of betrayal. A woman's voice was silenced, but her story lives on, warning us that sometimes, the real danger isn't out in the fields or hidden in the dark. Sometimes, it's standing right beside us.